Just a couple of friends. And what else? Oh, I actually went yesterday. I went to the new build, just like taking videos and posted on my social media. And they actually, yeah, and then a couple of friends. Oh, and then I actually get on that a friend of mine who actually, well, my husband's is a lender, and then she used him, and she actually posted on my comment and say, oh, these are a great duo, like, go use them, they're like the best, like, she's posting it in there, so it was kind of nice. I said, oh, thank you. But she actually used my husband before, so she kind of put it there. Oh yeah, go buy a house with them and go do the lending with them. They're like so good. They'll take care of you. They're like good duo. Like that was really nice. So yeah,
That's
I got
awesome. Good job. Well, and if you had not posted that, you wouldn't have had the opportunity to get that post that from her, right? If you had not taken, yeah. So you created that opportunity, didn't you?
Yeah, she actually was buying a second house for her daughter, but they already had an agent. And I talked to her a couple of times, but yeah, she's still using that agent. So.
Good job. Nice.
Nicely done. Who else? Kayla?
Share a win.
Yeah. So I actually met with a couple on Saturday, and we had coffee. They're interested in purchasing a home, but they're not quite ready at this moment. I was trying to get them set up with a lender just to see what they could potentially pre-qualify for. And we spoke for over an hour. And then I immediately emailed in a group with the lender and the two of them and got them connected. However, I've been ghosted, so I don't know what's happening at this point, but the lender tried to reach out, connected with me. I reached out, tried to connect with them, and we haven't heard anything back. So I'm not quite sure what's going on, but I'll just keep trying.
Offer something of value.
Okay.
Any information you can help, like in that hour conversation, something in there that triggers, what area were they looking for? What are they looking for? And then send them an email.
Okay. With what, like listings in that area?
Yep. Market report.
Okay.
Market report for that area.
Okay.
All
Is
right?
that something common that occurs? Or
Roasting?
All the time.
Okay.
All
the time. Well, and part of that is what you'll learn, and hopefully, we can help you learn this sooner rather than later, not like we had to learn it the long way, is that, the ways to avoid that is there's techniques to try to avoid that. You create these kind of dynamics where when you meet with somebody, you leave it so that there's you're kind of creating another need to connect on something else. Like, oh, great, I'll call you tomorrow or send you an email tomorrow with the thing you're looking for. So you kind of create these like dot to dot roadmaps so that like those connection points are already pre-established. Your next conversation is already like planned, or you've asked for permission to connect with them, right? You've said, hey, would it be all right if I reach out to you next week and I'll find out the properties whatever it is you're talking about, right? And so that way you've created the connection to the next appointment and then the next appointment, and you're not like, okay, we're all done, and then you call next week and you just don't hear anything,
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Provide value.
Yeah, like you said, if you provide something of value and you keep making those connections, like then they will see you as that trusted guy that's a resource for them that they want to continue to keep connecting with, keep talking to. And if they ghost you after that, the reality is a lot of times we're thinking about real estate all the time. A lot of people are not thinking about real estate all the time. And
right.
So for some people, realtors like a dentist, they only want to hear from them when they actually need their service. The rest of the time they prefer not. And so that doesn't mean that they're 3 years from now, they're not going to reach out and say, oh man, okay, I'm finally ready. And you're like, I thought this person like hated me, but like I never heard from them ever, but that you've stayed consistent and provided value in their life. And 5 years later, they stick their hand up and say, yep, I'm ready. That happens too,
Okay. Yeah. They come around. Well, I will provide value next time. That's for sure.
Well, and keep in mind, something for all you guys to think of on this is, if we can do the activities, if we take the steps that we know that we're doing the right thing, basically, we can't control how other people will respond. What we can do though is we can do what we can do our best and set ourselves up for the best chance of success. And ultimately, if somebody chooses something different, that's on them. We don't need to get upset about it. We can feel confident that we did our best and the outcome is going to be the outcome, you know?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for the support. I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
Make sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. You never know, 6 months down the road, they could call you back. It could be 2 weeks down the road. You know, it just, oh yeah, just make notes of the conversation.
Okay.
Same thing, right? And it all starts with a conversation. Anybody else got something to report?
Along those same lines, I just did a Ben Kenny training via Williams hour ago, and it was all about that, just keeping long-term people on a drip that's more of a long-term, which is just a search basically, and then making sure that you're working with your A and B buyers, like really more hands-on, essentially.
Those are your contacts. Yeah. Ben Kenny's amazing, by the way. His whole network is amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Who wants to learn about Win the Seller? Who wants more listings? Why are listings sounding more fun than buyers? Why does everybody want more listings than buyers?
Less work.
Yeah, less work,
Less work. You don't have
less
to go through
searching,
as many
less
houses.
energy.
Yes.
And you can get more leads from it.
Yeah.
We all sound lazy. No. I don't want to drive 50 hours.
We
right?
want to work smarter, not harder.
How many people want to take the buyers that are walking into 14 offers in one day and knowing that your budget's 20 over?
Me.
Yeah, sign me up, right?
Yeah.
And I'll break into this real quick. I had a lending story. I meet with my lender every Monday, and
Oh.
he wrote, "Why? So I can stay up to date on the market." Right? Put that in your calendar. What is going on in the market? What do I have to look for coming up? Interest rates. What are conversations that I can help my clients? Just a second here. There we go. And the one thing he always, he actually this week, he said, I have an amazing story. He wrote 5 approval letters on the same property for 5 different clients. They ranged, it was a $900,000 property. They ranged from 30,000 over to 120 over. You guys want to know the fun part? None of his clients got it. That's why you don't want to work with buyers. Right? And that's why listings are key. You know, for the first couple of years, I started out as 90-10. I was doing open houses, right? Open houses are a great way to go to build your business. They're ready-made buyers. And what we're going to say, I'm going to show you this. These things attract a lot of attention, right? And not only do they bring you buyers, they also bring you sellers. How many people come into an open house looking for neighborhood info? Okay. And when they see what you do, if you put out all these flags and you put out 16 footers as directionals, and you put out all of these things to market this property, when you have neighborhoods taking pictures, set yourself apart. Jamie, I think you said it best earlier. Everybody knows a realtor. What do you do that's going to set yourself apart? How do you walk into a listing appointment and know how to win that listing appointment? Okay. First and foremost, I don't know if we're supposed to use the term drunk monkey anymore, but we used to call it a drunk monkey, and that was somebody who sits on your shoulder and says, this is a person that says you don't know enough. You can't get into the listings because you don't know enough, right? And this is working with buyers and sellers. When we forget that this has anything to do with us and it has everything to do with our clients, we are going to be more successful. A perfect listing presentation starts with them knowing nothing about me. It has to do with where do they want to move? How fast do they want to get there? Do they have to sell their house to buy another house? You have to be able to navigate that. So it's forming these strategies that are best going to suit their needs. Okay. It's every seller is a what? A buyer. Teach them what you learn working with your buyers. No matter how hot the market is, if I were to tell you there's always a different story with every house. We hear about the ones that are going 14 offers in 24 hours, and we hear about those, right? Those are the houses that just came on the market. There's an entirely different market that is a secondary market. And that starts with, hey, you know what? You've been sitting on the market for 10 days. This may be an opportunity for my clients to come in and search and find this house. And all you got to do is search 10 days on the market. It's DOM in the filter, DOM, and then it pulls everything 10 days or longer on the market. Even though there's 16 days, there are sellers who overprice their house. Do we agree with that? 97% of people have one of these. One of these all has a home app. Do the sellers want to work with 3% or do they want to work with 97%? That all starts with pricing. Number one, how do you take the emotion out of it for the sellers? Because fundamentally, we have to turn them into buyers. We have to get them not to think that they want to be part of that secondary market. They don't want to be, you don't want to be the house on the market 10 days or later and I walk in to show the property. I'm going to get closing costs for my clients. We're going to be the only one at the table. We're going to, one, negotiate. List price determines what? Those in scripts might know this. It's my favorite saying in the world.
Activity.
List price determines the activity. The activity will determine the sale price. Now, fortunately, we have a lot of tools on our cell phones, right? If you Google an address, what pops up? It has evaluations, whether it's Redfin, whether it's Realtor.com, whether it's Zillow, whether they're right or wrong, they all have evaluations, right? And it's important to know those, right? And what they say, because every seller knows what their Zillow and their estimate is. They've made it easy. Now, fortunately, Zillow hasn't done a good job in the last year since they started buying houses, and they've overpriced everything. to a point where they actually shut off buying houses, which is a benefit to us as realtors, right? But they were a huge hiccup. Why? But their algorithms were so far off that they were buying houses for way more than they were worth, and they were selling them upside down to a point where they lost $420 million in a quarter. It's a great business model. We should all learn from it. But going into a listing appointment, when somebody sees their estimate at 500,000 and say your comps only justify between 425 and 450, how do you get them off the fence? What kind of relationship do you have with your clients? What kind of relationship do you have with yourself? If you knew somebody wanted 500,000 and you were going to waste your marketing budget knowing that it wasn't going to sell at 500,000, would you take the listing? Kayla, would you take the listing? Oh, mute, unmute.
I probably would not, if it was going to, you said if it's going to sell over 500,000?
Yeah, say the comp, say they see their estimate's 500,000. They're like, nope, his estimate says it's 500,000. Your comps only come between 425 and 450. Everything at 450. So you get to see the nuts and bolts, right? When you do your CMA. And your CMA is going to pull the actives, the pendings, and the solds. Okay, so the actives, the pendings, and the solds give you an idea of every story that house is being told. Did it sell for 50 over? Did it sell for 25 over? How long has it been on the market? How long was it on the market before it sold? Anything listed over 450, did it sit on the market?
Right. If they priced it too high, then I mean, it probably won't sell. But in this market right now, it seems that we don't have very many lots of supply for the demand. So at this point, I would take the listing.
You would put the sign in the yard, right?
Right.
And have your name on it. And if it doesn't sell in the first 5 days, the market has told you everything you need to know.
Price too high.
Price too high. So then you have a conversation with your client that says, you know what? We're not getting the activity that I need to see on this to sell it. We have 16 days of inventory, right? We've had 4 showings. We're seeing properties with 14 offers in 24 hours. I want to put you in that pool. I want people to drive the price up. So it's interpreting the market. Whenever you go into a listing, you need to interpret the market. I'm not here to tell you what your house is going to sell for. I'm here to get you the highest price the market will bear in the shortest amount of time. Write that down. I'm here to get you the highest price the market will bear in the shortest amount of time. We will understand what technology brings to your listing and your presentation. Don't lock yourself into a price. All we can do is put it on and interpret the market. If somebody wants to try to get 500,000, we can. We can absolutely try that. Whether or not they get it or not, who knows? But the biggest thing that we need to understand is the market will tell us everything we know in a certain amount of time. So we want to take all of these tools. When I say all of these tools, it starts with every house has a story. Starts with time on the market. And how do we get the highest price the market will sell in the shortest amount of time? 97% of people have a cell phone. 1 day on the market is like a week on the market. 2 days is 2 weeks. 3 days is 3 weeks. By the time day 5 hits, you're 5 weeks on the market. Does that make sense? Now, how do we win the seller? How do we get that listing? Okay. Are we going to win the seller and get that listing contract signed by agreeing with everything they say? No. We listen. We learn what their motivation is, what their goals are. And we learn where they got that information. Where everybody has a friend that wants to talk about real estate. Everybody wants to be a real estate agent, right? Congratulations, we're all real estate agents. Now we're going to perfect our craft. We want every seller to be a buyer. We want to bring in what we find as a buyer, and it starts with time on the market. If you have somebody that doesn't want to compete, if you have a buyer's consultation right now and they're like, man, the market's way hot, it's too hot, I don't want to compete, I don't want to go over. Well, great, that's only one market. What if I were to tell you that there are 2 or 3 others? Would you want to know more? Let's meet. Let's have a buyer's consultation. We'll sit down. We'll have a conversation about it, and I'll show you the different markets that we can explore. Right? If you want to compete, that's 5 days on the market or less. If you don't want to compete, that's what we call a secondary market. It's what I call the secondary market. And that's the longer it sits on the market, the more it's an opportunity for your buyers to come in and get it at a cheaper price and be the only one at the table and not. Right? These are conversations you can have with people while you're at open houses on that listing you just got. Show that you know that you can have these conversations. And that's all they are, is they're conversation pieces. We have conversations every morning at 8:20, starting at Scripps, Tuesday through Friday, on my personal Zoom page. It's a great time. You'll learn more of this, okay? The other part, when we go to a listing, one, we want to prepare a CMA. Oh, I have a question here. How do we find a property more than 10 days on the market? Ishmael, are you able to go on camera for a second? Some people do.
I can't hear you. I don't have a good camera right now, but I can hear you well.
Okay, so what we do is when we're searching for properties, right? And it gives you the top listed items. What most people do. How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, how many square feet, how much acreage do they want? Neighborhoods, what kind of property do they want? Well, underneath it, there's a button that says filter. Which RMLS are you in?
I am with the Willamette Valley.
I knew you were going to say that. You should be able to search, right? And this may be an email to Willamette Valley. You should be able to search DOM.
DUM?
DOM.
Yeah.
Those 3 letters. So in the RMLS, it's DOM. And it's under the filter category. And you just put 10 days or longer. And then you're in touch with the secondary market.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that help? Okay.
Thanks.
Yep. So all of these things, and I will tell you this, I closed 17 transactions my first year when I was doing open houses by having that secondary market conversation. One, because it gave buyers another opportunity that their real estate agent never gave them. Their real estate agent wasn't at the open house with them, was sending them to every open house that had been on the market 3 days or less. And 9 of my first 17 were homeless because their agent didn't protect them. They didn't know about seller to find suitable housing. They didn't know that you can protect your buyers up to your buyers can have up to 59-day rent back for the seller so they can find a place. 59 days, it changes for the buyers. It becomes a non-owner occupied, it's day 60. Okay, so all of these things, how are all of these things that we're talking about in the buyer world, how do they relate to the seller? We take what we learn in the buyers and we move it to the sellers. And that starts with 1, we don't know where we're going to go. We don't want to compete. These are going to be your common objections right now. What if I could tell you I could find you a place? And we can also make sure that every buyer knows that they have to work with you to find suitable housing. That your interest will be protected. Okay. Once, and when we say that, buyer to find suitable housing, or seller to find suitable housing, that lets every buyer know that they're coming into the house, that they're going to have to pony up some rental time. If you walk in with this strategy and you can help them and say, look, I know it is impossible. One of the objections you'll hear from a seller is this. And that objection is going to be, we have to sell our house to find a new one. 1, how many offers are going to be accepted with a contingent offer with 16 days on the market? That's where you're strictly telling them about the secondary market. Could that be an advantage? Hey, I know you have to sell, but first thing we're going to look at is all of these houses that have been on the market where buyers have deemed that it's overpriced and haven't gone to see and they have no offers. We're going to start looking there because they're in prime position to accept a contingent offer. Okay, the other part of this, when you have that's the most complicated contingency when you have to sell your house. You don't want to show them properties before you list their house. You want to put their house on the market first, protect them with seller to find suitable housing. And then after they go live on your listing, then you're looking at the same time, you've got a buyer. Okay. That's the key.
Okay. Did you say that, am I on? I'm not muted, right? Okay.
No.
Did you say that the seller can, did you use the word lease back for 59 days?
Rent back. Yeah. It's rent back. Basically what it is.
Rent back. Okay.
Yeah. It's a rent back. And what that is, that's a form that you fill out that
Rent
says,
back.
my buyers are willing to give your sellers 59 days rent back. It can be either at whatever they're paying for their mortgage. It can be free, whatever is acceptable to your clients.
Okay, so can I, as a seller's agent, can I pitch that to the buyer's agent?
Yep.
And say, are the buyers willing to do? Okay.
Yes. And hey, the seller to find suitable housing means that they're going to work with us. If I'm working with the seller, I don't bring up the 59 days. The
okay.
buyers offer 6 months rent back. Do we think we can find a house in 6 months?
Absolutely. So when you're working with with just the seller, you would go to the seller lease back.
Exactly. And it just lets them know they're
Or
looking
suitable
for.
housing. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And same thing with the buyers. If you're working with the buyers, that's where you say, hey, we usually have about 45 days where you're not paying a mortgage. So therefore it's a free time to you that we can give them to find a place. Okay, and that just depends on closing date. That depends on and possession date.
Okay.
Okay. But we start looking for the sellers who want suitable housing. They want to protect themselves with suitable housing. We start looking as soon as we go live. And we're going to start in that secondary market. But all of these things can help you win a listing. They can help you win the seller by showing that you know how to navigate through this process. Okay, listing presentation. When we walk in, one, we're going to be early. We're going to be 15 minutes early. Tour the neighborhood, see what's on the market, do our research there, see if anything else has popped up that maybe we didn't know about through our CMA. We will learn about CMAs through this, okay? And the bottom line is that the CMAs will give us the actives, the pendings, and the solds. Why do we want to pull actives when we're talking to sellers? That's our competition. That's going to be our competition when we go live. Okay. Pendings gives us an idea of how fast they're going pending. How fast do we look? Every page in the WV, you can look at the history. Look at the history of the RMLS. How long has that been on the market? How long has the house been on the market? When did it go pending? How long did it take to go pending? Maybe it's a phone call to the listing agent. A phone call to the listing agent that says, hey, I see you went pending. You went within 4 days. Did you have multiple offers? How did you feel about the price? Our job is to find as much information out as we can for our sellers. And if we can tell the story on every house, does that make you look better? Absolutely, 100%. Do your due diligence. Nobody's going to outwork you. Who's got writer's cramp so far? Need a break? And these are things that I would tell you, your actives, your pendings, and your solds, right? That's part of your CMA when you walk in. A formal listing presentation means we're going to get there 15 minutes early. We're going to tour the neighborhood. We're going to look at the house. Usually the day before we do our CMA, we drive by the house. We look at it. We look at what condition is it in. We need to understand when we have a listing, there's certain things that deter value. Is it on a busy road? How do you account for something that's on a busy road? When I first started in this business, I met with every appraiser and I picked their brain. I met with every inspector. I meet with lenders still to this day. They're a lot smarter than I am, but they give me a lot of information and they are experts in we have to know a lot of things as real estate agents, right? I'll give you an example. What's coming up and then on April 1st? Anybody know?
Interest rate on income properties.
What's that?
Interest rate on income properties.
Yep. Interest rate on investment properties. According to Fannie and Freddie, they're going to start charging a 1.8% charge to the loan to the clients who are buying investment properties. So they'll have to come with more money down. If you've got somebody, so this is a talking point. If you've got somebody in your database that's looking as an investor, hey, I just wanted to let you know this is coming up. Is that a benefit? You show you're on top of it. Okay, there's a lot to this. This is why staying connected and staying engaged, and going to the office and talking to people, this is what we do. Okay, your pendings, that tells you a story. And then when they sell, you get to say, you know, in the last 6 months, how much did they go over? How long did they sit on the market? But that's your opportunity to sit down with your seller and show him that show them that there's two different markets. There's always two different markets. How do you present it? Present it with sheets, present it with information. And here's a house that went on the market. 3 days later, it went pending at 40 over. This one sat on the market for 30 days and they sold with 10,000 under, never had a price reduction, and had to pay closing costs. Tell the story, right? These are comparables. It's not just this house went on the market and sold. There's a story behind every single house. That's where you do your research. Okay. How do we do this? So when I walk into a listing presentation, I'm there to simply, when I first started real estate, I was there to talk about me. I've been in the business for this long, haven't had a listing yet, want to be my first. Horrible way to go about it. Only thing they need to know is how you're going to get them to where you're going to go. How are you going to market their house? We're with Keller Williams. We're the #1 brokerage. We're not only nationwide, we're worldwide. If somebody from China wants to move here, if somebody from Japan, if they want to move here, they certainly can. We have offices. We're connected all over the world. That's a huge benefit. Okay. Not only that, when we go live in the RMLS and then we put it on the KW listing service, we're going out to like 2,600 websites that all are going to ping to their phone if they have a filter. Look what just came up. Fits your criteria. Let's go. That is literally how fast it goes. That's how fast buyers want to get into your house. We have to understand how the buyers do things so we can help the sellers not be put in a bad position. Okay. So the other part of that is when we walk in. Go ahead, Kayla.
So with the part of the, I think when I was doing my having my conversation with the clients the other day, they were asking, you know, how's the market and how will you get me into a house when there's so much competition out there, and we're going to be outbid and overpriced. Like, wouldn't it be beneficial to wait? And I said, well, you know, with waiting, you can wait until spring. There will be a lot more houses on the market, but the competition right now, is right now there's not a lot of supply for the demand, but in spring there'll be a lot more houses. And the longer that you wait, though, APR rates are going up. Right now, they're low. Isn't that right? But how else could I go about like telling them, I'll get you a house?
You wish you had this class last Wednesday.
Okay.
Because you had to talk to them about the secondary market. Look, I know everybody
Okay, yeah.
feels like they're going to compete, but what if I were to tell you that there's places that come on and they're overpriced and people know it? And that is just another opportunity where we can come in and be the only one at the table, or have fewer, we're not competing with 15 to 20 offers. Maybe we're competing with 1 to 2.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So having that conversation and always telling, and that's the biggest misnomer, because people are lazy and they just go off what they hear. Every house is going for 20 over. Every house is going for 100 over. Every house is just too tough of market. Great. I understand your feelings, but what I can tell you is I just got somebody into a house for 30 under their list price.
Mm. Was it beneficial for me to say that, in spring, a lot more houses will come on the market during that duration of time, or would that cause me to lose them?
No, we want to point out every different scenario. We want to show how much knowledge we have. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So we want to show that, yes, that is entirely correct. The biggest misnomer in the last 3 years has been that inventory, there hasn't been any listings.
Right.
That the inventory is so low, right? We've been under a month for almost going on 3 years, 2 years, except for maybe a month or two. And anybody know what a normal market is? Normal market is 5 to 6 months where it doesn't benefit the buyer or the seller.
Oh.
So we've been at I think the highest we've been is 2.1 months. Okay. So you guys want to go even any further? This has nothing to do with win the seller, but let's talk about why that is, right? I like to know why things happen. We came out of a recession in 2008 to 2012, 13, right? And we're feeling the effects of that now. How are we feeling the effects of that? Less building. You see, from
Right.
1930 to 39, United States, we built 5.8 million homes. From 40 to 49, it was like 10.4 million homes. From 1950 to 2010, when we hit that recession, on average, we were building 25 million homes a year.
Oh, wow.
From 2010 to 2019, how many homes were built?
I don't know.
5.8 million homes.
Oh, wow.
So we're back to the 1930s as far as the home building goes. So that's why we have the shortage of inventory.
That makes a lot of sense.
So when you tell them that, do you sound like the expert?
Yeah.
Find things that they love. Do your research. Okay. These are things that I'm passionate about. I love numbers. I love seeing that we can take that another step forward, right? So the first thing I want you to do is, when we're done with this today, is pick up the phone and call those clients. And you're going to regurgitate things that you've learned today and see how they respond. Okay. The other thing you have to know is what happened to get out of the recession. Fannie and Freddie decided to add a 3% loan, a 5% loan, a 10% loan, and it wasn't just a 20% loan. So more people are able to qualify with less investment. They're still invested, not like the zero down programs they were giving in 2005, 6, and 7, but they're still giving that. Okay, so knowing these stats can help you form a strategy, right? 6 months worth of inventory is a normal market. It doesn't matter if it's 5 or 6 months, because with technology, with this little thing right here, guess what? The seller's market is only going to last 7 days or less from here on out. Your seller's market is 7 days. If you walk into a thing and say, the time we're going to get the highest price the market will bear in the quickest amount of time is in your first 7 days. Your seller's market is 7 days. After that, the market's told you you're stale and you need a price reduction.
Great FISBO script, by the way, to add into that.
Right? All it's 7 days or less. The other part of that, when we go into our listing presentation, right? We have our pre-listing packet. What are things we're going to do to market the property? We're going to do professional photography. We're going to have drone footage if we can. We're going to have floor plans. People love floor plans. Find a photographer that will do floor plans. Find yourself a cleaning company. Right? With COVID, we want to start at ground zero. People are going to be coming into your house. Are people worried about COVID? How are we going to market this in a safe and effective way and get their house sold? It's absolutely awesome if you go live on the market and you have 115 scheduled showings for the weekend, and you've told your clients to get out of the house for 10 hours. Right? They're like, yes, what's going on? They're going to be tired of it. You know what? Let me put you up in a hotel. Had to do that before. We make sacrifices. Budget where your money goes. Where do you want the marketing budget? If you get a price that you think it's going to explode, send them away for the weekend. Maybe they have a place to go for the weekend where you get free access. That's the best of both worlds. It's 5 days of inconvenience, but we'll get you out of here. You won't have to get up and leave every time there's a showing. And it's just going to be, you get to get away for the weekend and we'll review when you get back. Oh, what if we don't get any offers? Well, then I will interpret the market to you and tell you everything that I've been told. Okay. We're interpreting the market. We're giving market updates. That's it. A lot of information, right? We have to be the jack of all trades. Sometimes we're marriage counselors. Anybody want to hear a story about what happens there? Establish a price. You're at the listing. You're at a listing. You establish a price. Comes up. It's a great price. It's going to get lots of activity. We've agreed to it. 2 days before we're going live, you get a call from the husband that says, "Hey, I'd like to up it 25,000. I put a lot of work into it. I'd like to put it, raise the price to 550. That could cost you money in the long run. I really think 525 is the way to go, but if you want to try 520, 550, we can try it. Great. Put it on the market at 550. Showings go down. They're not exactly where you want them to be. You do get an offer within 7 days at 10,000 under. They back out the first day. The mom didn't like the house, and the mom was going to be staying in the house. She vetoed it. So they backed away. After that, we didn't get a showing for another 10 days. So I called them. I didn't call them 10 days, but I kept them in the loop, right? You want to check in once a week, twice a week, let them know, even if there's nothing to report. The last thing you want to do is leave your sellers in a bind where they're talking with themselves, because we are our own worst enemies. Psychologically, they're talking about what work you're not doing. And we don't want that. Okay. The other part of that also is, one, by going up 25,000, Of course, selling your house is a pain. Getting up, making the bed, making sure the dishes are done, making sure everything's clean, wiped down before you go off to work can be painful depending on their lifestyle. It's important that you share that with them, right? So 10 days later goes by, the wife calls me and says, Matt, what are we going to do? And I said, the only thing I know here is you need to ask your husband why he doesn't want to move. She's like, no, I'm the boss. I want to move. He's going to move. And I told her, I said, anybody who's ever raised the price 48 hours before going live doesn't want to move. And that's a conversation between you two, right? He's sabotaging it. I want to bring you the highest price the market will bear. At this point, we need to lower the price to bring in more activity because the market's telling us we're overpriced. Let me talk to him. Hour and a half later, my phone rings, says, lower the price. We lower the price as soon as we lower the price, within 24 hours, we have 2 offers at the same price. Neither one of them go up. No, they want to compete on the terms of their offer, and then we move forward. Then I had to tell him he probably cost himself about $10,000 to $15,000, because if we'd have done that on day one, we probably would have got 535 or 540. By sitting in the market and becoming a stale listing, what does it tell you? It tells buyers what?
The house is overpriced.
What's
They
wrong
don't
with the
need to pay
house?
more. Less competition.
The one conversation is becomes what's wrong with the house? Why hasn't it sold? We have record inventory. By the way, Kayla, I can tell you're getting a little bit pumped. You're getting worked up with all this knowledge. Right? So that's what we do, right? We want to provide solutions. Sometimes we have to put on our marriage counseling hats. Sometimes it's uncomfortable conversations. But I will also tell you this, there's nothing more rewarding than helping your clients get to the finish line. So let's talk about a listing presentation when you're there early, right? We're here, you know, first thing we do, I'll go to the bold listing presentation. Okay. And if anybody ever gets a chance to take bold, take it. It'll change your life. Ignite's one thing, bold is another thing. It will change your life. It'll change your mindset. It'll change the way you look at things. Okay. We have no secret agents here. Secret agents stand in the background. They don't call people. They don't get in front of people. We get in front of people. We have conversations. If you contact 10 people a day, whether it's in an open house, maybe it's at a coffee shop, maybe it's at a bar, wherever you decide that you want to go to get in front of people. It's funny because everybody talks about coffee shops and church and whatnot. At a bar, their defenses are down, right? They just want to blab. They want somebody to talk to. And I know I'm onto something there because I've done it before. Right? What your lead generation looks like, find something you're passionate about. Make it fun. Make it so it's not work, right? How many people right now can think of, I'm going to ask a question. How many people right now can think of somebody who has been on their hearts that one day goes to the next day that they haven't contacted, but they know they should, but that day becomes another day, and we just feel worse and worse and worse. And then we don't ever call them. Right? Perfect example. What kind of accountability can you give yourself? How many people are afraid of accountability? If you're afraid of accountability, type 1 in the chat box. What do I mean by accountability? Somebody's going to hold you to the fire to make sure that you're doing your 5 jobs. I make it sound real easy, don't I? To be successful in real estate, we have 5 things we have to do on a daily basis. Who wants to know what they are? Okay. Nobody wants to know? No.
I
Caleb,
want to know.
those 5 things starts with database management. Call your database your data bank. It puts you in front of people without being in front of people. Number 2, scripts practice. And I wish we had a different name for it, because scripts just sounds cheesy, but it's where you get to master your craft. Where do we come up with these objections? How do we handle somebody who, when you get into the listing presentation and they say, you know what, I just think you charge too much. How do you handle that objection? I've got another agent over here that's going to charge 1%. You're going to charge me 2.5%? How are you going to get me 1.5% more than what they're going to do? What are you going to go differently? What are you going to do differently? The answer is simple. See, I understand that there's 4 points to a transaction where a buyer can reduce his price, negotiate a better contract, and get it cheaper from you. It's designed into this system, into the transaction. You've got your seller's disclosure period, preliminary title period, inspection period, and your appraisal period. All of these are just avenues where buyers can go back to the negotiating table and keep their earnest money. Knowing there's 4 points to the transaction is important, because that's where they're going to negotiate and bring the price down. See, there's offer price, and then there's final price. What did they pay? How much did you lose in your negotiations? How much did your client lose in their negotiations? And if you have another agent that's sitting there saying, I'll do it for 1%, if they can't fight for their own money, how are they going to be at fighting for your number one investment? See, I understand this is the number one way to build wealth, that you've put a lot of time, and you put a lot of effort, a lot of maintenance into this house. And I want you to get the highest price the market will bear in the shortest amount of time. With my proven strategies, we can do that. Did that agent just offer a lower price, or was it part of his listing presentation? What did that look like? If you offer less money, it's your business, right? You can reduce your contracts. Absolutely. It's a hard way to go. And at the same time, what it comes down to is, are we going to, 1, stick to our guns? 1, we're fighting for the food on our table, not only our table, but our family's table, right? Not only that, we split the money 4 ways. Keller Williams takes a piece. Taxes, we can't forget about taxes. For every 87% of agents that get out of business in the first year, there's another 35 to 40 to get out because they're stuck with a tax bill. We understand that. Scary propositions, good, bad, the ugly, right? Right. And I want you to understand that we cover all of that. We're self-employed. Our tax rate's higher. Where it seems like we're getting a check for $10,000, boom. Are we getting a check for $10,000 on the commissions? No. We get 70% of that. 30% goes to Keller Williams. Then we have another 35% that gets put away for taxes. Do the math. 35% of 70, we're down to 35%. Then we have our marketing expenses. Break it down, simplify it for them, right?
So are you saying that 35% of what we make, we need to put away for taxes because we're self-employed? It's a 10% bracket difference versus being an employee?
I would say between 30 and 35% right now. And that's more a political question, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. Who's in office? How much are they raising taxes? How much are they going up? How much more of our money? But 30 to 35%, we have to tuck away. Another 29% has to go into the business that we just put marketing towards, right? MRE says 29% goes back into your business. What does that leave left? So when you're negotiating 1%, that doesn't leave a whole lot of room, right?
Doesn't leave us very much at all, does it?
No, right?
15%.
You can take $3 and say, well, here's for Keller Williams. Here's $1 for Keller Williams. We're going to break it up into 3 ways. Here's $1 for the government, and here's my dollar. It's essentially the same thing, right? But they're not thinking about that part of it. It's part of having your own business, right? Not only that, I've probably got to have a CPA. I've probably got to have a bookkeeper. I've probably got to, right? All of these things come into play when you have your own business. How do you walk into a listing and win the seller? One, it's not about you. It's not how long you've been in the business. It's solely about them. So we're going to dive into a listing presentation. How many people need a break? Does anybody need a break? Do they need some water? Bathroom break? Are we good? Keep going.
Didn't get the other 3. I think we only got
Yeah.
data management and the script practice.
Script practice.
I think we
Yeah,
still
what
have
was the other 3?
more.
The other 3. Good. See, I get terms, right? Good. Thanks for the reminder. I got distracted by my own thoughts. Your 5 jobs: database management. You can call your database your data bank. Scripts practice. That's how to fight objections. Lead generation. How many people are you going to get in front of? Lead generation follow-up is number 4. Number 5 is set appointments. How many appointments a week does it take to make $1 million? 4.4. Now that's going to depend on your conversion rate. If all 4 of your, all 4 of your appointments become clients, then that's great. But you got to know your conversion rates as well. How do we convert them? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Ishmael. I apologize for that.
What was number 5 again? Sorry.
Set appointments.
Oh, appointments.
If we do those are the 5 things we do to grow our business. If we do those, then we're going to negotiate contracts. And that's when real estate comes into play. Right?
So what is the conversion? What is the conversion of the 4.4 appointments? You have to have like about 3 at least in the contract, or 2.5 in the contract?
You have to have, well, no, if you have 4.5 clients a week, and they all become clients, then you're on your way to $1 million. So that's assuming that all 4 appointments become clients right now at this moment. So how do you find 4.5 people, 4.5 people how do you find 4.5 people a week to become clients? 16 people. We need to find basically 20 people a month to find real estate needs. How do you do that?
Doing all those 5 things.
Exactly it. Where do you get your leads? How do you get your leads? How do you get more comfortable talking to people? Right? Anybody want to do an experiment with me? Wee, you're always game. Right? Ask me how the market is.
Hi, Matt. How's your market? What am I gonna say? How's the market?
Wee, hey, it's great to talk to you again. Well, I'm glad you asked. It depends. Are you looking to buy, sell, invest, or rent? They're all very different. Which one are you asking for?
Well, I don't know. I'm just trying to look around. Just want to see if I want to sell or buy. I'm not sure. Like, what do you think? What do you think is gonna happen?
Ultimately, it depends, right? So what are the options that you and your husband are talking about as far as what you want to do? And let's see if we can't develop a strategy to see what best fits your needs, right? I want to give you all the information that you need so you guys can make the best decision for you and your family. How does that sound? So where are you looking to move? Why are you looking to move?
Well, we're actually not trying to move, but we want to see if our house already like making some money right now. Maybe, I don't know, just maybe another property.
How long have you lived in your house?
Like around 6-7 years.
Okay. Have you ever refinanced your house?
We did a couple years ago.
Okay. If you don't mind, can I ask what your current interest rate is?
I think it's around 3 right now, 3 something.
Okay, so that's a good rate.
3.48. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things I would tell you in the market right now is that interest rates have gone up a little bit. So you probably won't have that rate, right? And there's options for what you're looking at. Whether you're deciding to sell and buy something new, I would honestly tell you this, and my belief is this. I believe the number one way to wealth is to actually hold your property, have somebody else pay your mortgage, and you upgrade and find something with your husband that maybe is a better fit for you guys. But then you've got somebody over here that's paying your mortgage over here. Okay. And how do we do that? Right? That's building it. For every payment that somebody makes, you're building equity in your property. Right? So you can either loan against it, you can either refinance that to get a down payment. Do you and your husband, what does the financing look for this property? Sorry, I go back from coach to whatnot, but so when you're looking at options, do you have enough money down for a down payment for an investment property?
Yeah, but we don't want to go in the bidding war right now.
Okay.
I see it how everyone's.
Well, and I will tell you this, there's always 2 or 3 different markets, right? So the only time you're going to compete is if you keep finding houses that are on the market within the first 5 to 7 days, right? We may have a less competition. Anything over the market over 10 days is an opportunity where the market's already told them it's stale. So we call that the secondary market. And that's where I would start looking. If you don't want to compete, I'd show you every house that has been in the market. Not every house sells in the first weekend. Okay, it's important that you know that. Every house has a different story, and my job is to tell you that story. How does that sound? So
That's pretty good.
let's get together with you and your husband, and we'll set up a criteria and see what we can show you what's out there, and kind of explain the best policy or the best plan of action going forward. How does that sound?
That sounds pretty interesting. Yeah, we
I
should
have a
do that.
question.
Yeah.
I may have missed this or whatever, but I know you're talking about the secondary market, anything on market over 10 days, how that's beneficial to a buyer. How do you present that to a seller? Did I miss that?
No, it's coming. Okay. To get that, right?
Okay.
So to get that, and I want you to think of that, because we're going to take what we learned from buying and put it to the sellers. Right? So,
Okay, I wanted to make sure I didn't miss it.
no. So what I would tell you is this, right? When we want to win the seller, we win the seller when we understand the different strategies that are needed to get them to where they want to go. And what I mean by that is one, you walk in, we're there, we're going to walk in and I'm going to do a listing presentation, right? Knock, knock, knock. You know, hey, it's 2:30. My name is Matt Spate with Keller Williams. Thank you for meeting with me today. It's 2:30 and we had an appointment at 2:30. Right? I point out the time. Why?
Because you're on time?
90% of agents are late.
Gotcha.
The number is absolutely ridiculous at how many agents can't get there on time. Respect your client's time. Take control of the meeting. I love that we have an appointment at 2:30. And I love what you've done. Compliment the house. Take a look through the eyes of a buyer at the house. Is the roof new? Is the siding? How does the siding look? Have the windows been replaced? Right? Just from when you're walking up, what does the landscaping look like? Find something to compliment them. Love what you've done to your house. It shows that you've been here. Sorry, say that again. Oh, she went mute. Okay.
Landscape and all that, what's around outside.
Oh. That was awful, mumbled in and out. Let me keep going. So, hey, it's 2:30. We have an appointment at 2:30. Thanks for having me. I love what you've done to the house. Looks like you're getting ready to sell. I'd love to be able to come in and see how I can help you get to where you want to go. Jamie, when we get better service, jump back on and ask that question. Okay, I'm going to try to answer it within this because this is how you're going to basically win the seller. One, you take control. If you come in and you agree with everything that they say, they may as well sell at FSBO. Okay, so when we drive in, we say, okay, we had an appointment at 2:30. It's 2:30. Great. Is it okay if we sit at the dining room table? Perfect. Most of the time they say yes, or where would you like me to, where would you like us to sit? A lot of people will say their dining room table. It could be the kitchen couches, wherever they want you to sit, right? And then I always start with this. We're here to establish 3 things today. Those 3 things. 1, we're going to discuss your motivation. Where do you want to move to? And what does that look like? 2, what price point we want to go to the market on? And 3, whether or not you want to work with me or I want to work with you. What's your first thought when I say whether or not I want to work with you?
Are we a good fit?
Exactly right. Why wouldn't you want to work with me? You may ask me to be putting my marketing budget behind your home at a price that I know it's not going to sell.
True.
This is your business. Run it like a business. Okay. Great. That immediately lets them know you're in control of the price and the process. Okay. And then it really depends on your client, right? What type of client are you working with? If you know them, you've had conversations with them, then you know in a DISH profile, if anybody doesn't know what a DISH profile is, understand what the DISH profile is. Are they a high D? Are they driven? If they're a high D, I know I have to be in and out of there within a half hour. Are they an I? Are they an influencer? Then they just want to know more so they can educate more people. Which, if you guys haven't figured out, I'm a high I. Like 99% I. Okay. S, are they going to be steady? Are they a C? Are they going to be cautious? Depending on who you are working with, depends on your listing presentation. If you have a high D and you spend an hour and a half giving them useless information, you've lost them. Boom, emailed him. Great, sounds great. Let's go to, you showed me your marketing plan. You showed me everything that we're going to do. Then we're going to go through and, send it over email. That's a high D. Okay. So know who you're working with. Okay. So as we sit here, one, thank you for having me over. I know you're about to embark on a decision, and I want to thank you for taking the time to meet with me and list with me. You want to make sure you have your closes in there. Subliminal messages. Okay. So the first question I'd like to ask is one, where do you want to move to? What is the time frame that you want to get there? Because that's also going to determine the strategy. If they're not in a hurry, maybe it's a guy who says, you know what, it's the top of the market, the interest rates are raising, I think it's a good time to sell. I'm not in a hurry, but if I can get $550 for my house, you've got yourself a listing. Well, you've lived in it for 30 years. You still have the original furnace in it. You haven't painted the house. The house is in shambles, right? You got holes in the floor, whatever it looks like. You don't want to bring that up, but you're looking around going, oh, wow, this guy wants top dollar without doing anything to his house. It's very common right now. That is another objection. I want top dollar when I haven't put a cent into it for 20 years. Okay. And then when we build, we're going to build that trust. Great. Where did you get the number for 550? Most of the time they'll say, oh, that's what my estimate is. Oh, I had a contractor over and he said it was worth, that I should get at least 340, or 550 for it. That's awesome. I'd love to get you 550 for it. I'd love to get you 600. But all I can do is give you the market. All I can do is interpret the market so we can put it on at a price that we know it's both going to sell at the highest price the market will bear in the shortest amount of time. The other thing, and every objection comes in, how do you handle those objections? That's what scripts practice is for. You learn something new every day. That just means getting out of bed at 8 o'clock and getting on a Zoom at 8:20. Master your craft. How do you fight the objections? Well, great. You know, I understand that you want 550. Don't even address it at that point. Everybody wants something for their house, right? Okay, we haven't shown them any information. What does it come down to? Where do you want to go? Where are you looking to move to? Why do you want to sell? What is it about this neighborhood that you don't like anymore? One of my favorite questions in a listing presentation is what got you to buy this house when we bought it? Shows that you're emotionally connected. Right? For example, you have a house where this kid and his dad designed it, built it from the ground up, wrote out the process, had everything in it you could possibly think of. And I got the listing based on one question. And I said, you know what? There isn't a bad thing I can say about this. You've got no neighbors. You've got a creek on this side. It's a beautiful house, very meticulously thought out, and it shows. I'm going to ask you a question now that you've been here for 2 years. What is it you wish you'd done differently? And he's like, that's an awesome question. He goes, you see, I'm 150 square feet of making it a true daylight ranch. I went cheap in that back corner. And I'd always wished that I'd made it a true daylight ranch. Find a way to connect with your sellers. Listen to their stories. Some of them may break down and cry. Some of them may not like what you're telling them at all. That's what we do. We have to be honest with them. Nobody knows the market like you do. Okay. Motivation. Where do you want to move? Do you want to stay in? Are you going to stay in the area? Are you going to move out of the area? Maybe you're going to move out of the state. Great. Well, then we need to devise a plan to make sure that they're covered on the buy side. Do you have to sell your place to have a down payment? Is this where you're getting your money to buy the next one? Anybody hear of a program called Knock? Just came out last year, and it's an opportunity where if somebody needs to sell their house to buy a new one, they will buy their house, or they'll put money up front for the house and be able to supply a bridge loan so they don't have to do a contingent offer. Right? You can become a Knox certified agent as another, what do you call it? Another avenue for, another opportunity for your clients, an easier opportunity that they don't have to sell their house to buy a new one. Anybody who wants to have a listing appointment with me, I talk to them about wealth building. If you're looking to move, is it a good idea to move? How much equity do you have in your house? Maybe it's something you can refinance or take a second out, get a down payment, buy another one, and rent this one out. Do the numbers make sense? How good are you at the rental market? See for us how bad the process is for buying, or sorry, for that the market has, or the market is. It's worse for renters. I know that because of rent control and 602B in Oregon, rents are going to go up 7 to 10% every year. How many people are going to be able to afford rent in 3 years when your rent's gone up 30%? Does that help? There's a less than 1%, there's a 1% vacancy rate. Okay. All of these things become beneficial in how you win the seller. All of these strategies help paint a picture for the seller, for them to be able to make the best decision for them and their family. You win the seller by emotionally connecting. You win the seller by showing your different strategies. Okay. Other things that I do when I'm in a listing presentation. One, where do you want to go? How do you know, how fast do you want to get there? Because that's going to be your motivation. And that's what you're going to keep pointing out to them. Right? What price point? Do you have any idea what your price is, what your house is worth? Great. He's already told me he's going to have, you know, this house is worth $550. Great. So now I need to do some due diligence. Well, now that you think it's worth $550, I won't ever say that to him, but what I will say is, hey, the one thing I would like to do is, one, when you work with me, we're going to have to fill out some paperwork. Okay. We know you're going to go to the market. These are your seller's disclosures. This is everything you know about the house without lying. You're going to answer every question in 6-7 pages, right? Get familiar with the seller's disclosures, and answer the question to the best of your knowledge. While you're doing that, I would love to walk through your home through the eyes of a buyer, since you're not going to be here when showings are happening. So I'm setting the expectation that showings aren't going to happen. Well, they're there. They're going to have to leave for the showings. Nothing more awkward than when you show up and the seller refuses to leave and you're there with your buyers. They don't look at it with the same sets of eyes. Sometimes the seller can't get out of the house, depending on their health. We make that work, right? But we set the expectation with our sellers that they will be leaving for every showing. And what you really need to understand with that is now I'm going to walk through the house. I've already checked out the roof. I've checked out the siding. I've checked out the entryway. I've checked out windows. Now I'm going to go through the inside, and I'm going to walk through the inside with an RMLS sheet, the input sheet. I'm going to make a note. Is it a gas stove? Is it a gas furnace? Everything that I have to fill out in that input sheet, I'm going to answer as many questions as I can. As I'm walking through, I'm making any notes of any projects that may be unfinished. What does that look like? Okay. So the other part of that also is when we have that, as you're walking through the eyes of a buyer, right? Sometimes the seller will say, hey, well, I'm not really comfortable with that. I'm going to walk through it with you. Great. I would love that as well. The biggest objection is they want to then tell you everything that they've done with the house. And they're bringing the emotion into it. So we need to recognize that. We need to compliment them on everything they've done. I remember when little Johnny was, here's little Johnny when he was now 6'4", but his markings are still on the wall. Whatever that looks like, with the sponge painted bathroom, right? Big in the 90s, huge, right? What's it going to take to get them to get to top dollar? Don't be afraid to talk about that, right? Hey, as we go through this, I noticed, when was the last time you had your furnace serviced? Your furnace should be serviced twice a year. Change the filters out twice a year. Service it once a year. Make sure everything's in good working order. If they haven't had it serviced in a while, it's probably a good time to call your AC guy or your furnace, your HVAC guy, and have it serviced. Talk to them about a home warranty program. Maybe when we have this listed, we put a home warranty on it, we get this furnace serviced for 60 bucks, 75 bucks, whatever the deductible is. It's another option. So all we do there is, one, we're giving them options. Can we save them money? Absolutely, 100%. And what when we talk about is, it's just another option to win the seller. You're going to win the seller when you provide the options. What do you want to do? Right? I love what you've done. Compliment them. Oh, I understand what you're talking about. Agree with them. So as you walk through the house, point out anything that might be, hey, do we have any room in the budget? What are we going to put behind the house to sell it? Is there any room in a budget? What does it look like? Can we fix it up nice? Or are we going to put lipstick on it? We need to understand the seller wants to get the highest price. Okay. The other thing is we want to talk about pricing strategies. I only use even numbers. I don't put somebody at $499.9. I don't put somebody at $499. That's me telling them their house isn't worth $500,000, and I don't make that decision. It's a numbers game. How many people can we hit in the first week of going live? And if we put it at $499, how many people looking over 500 aren't going to see the house? Right? 99, right? It's an old car trick. It's an old grocery store trick. You didn't even pay $1 for this. I paid 99 cents. How many people want that penny? See, if we just take it that extra $1 more, or that extra $100, whatever, whatever it is, $499 to $500. Then everybody's going to look at everybody who's looking and lending, right? They're looking from $475 to $500. They're looking from $500 to $525. They're looking from $500 to $550. Know how your apps work. It's important to know how your apps work because that's how everybody's searching, right? I know what happens if I put a house on the market at $499. And actually, I've had that happen. I put a house at $499. We got 3 offers at $485. My seller counted every offer at $497. That was his bottom line. So he needed to net $497 to break even from when he bought it 6 months earlier. Met the love of his life and needed a bigger house. Market wasn't nearly as hot as it is now. So what did he have to do? So I got back to him. I said, let me think about it. Let me come up with a different strategy. I said, all right. I said, called him the next day and I said, we're going to raise your price. He was like, you're going to do what? And I was like, I'm going to raise your price. We're going to go up to 505. See, everybody's seen it up to 500, but nobody's seen it from 500 to 525. I put it at 505, released it as a new property. Boom, within 7 days, I had an offer at 500. Problem solved. invention of the 500, going live at 500 versus 499. As we do things in our own business, we're going to learn. As we learn, we're going to implement them. Does that make sense? When you choose to stage the house, who pays for that, seller or the agent? Staging, I always put on the seller. Staging can be an expensive endeavor. Yes, meet with them. But getting your client to absolutely 100% get behind staging. If the house has nicks and dings on the walls and is in rough, is in rough cosmetic shape, staging will help hide that. They'll pay attention to the furniture versus all the nicks and dings. I'm going to be flat out honest. I've not used a stager since the inception of COVID. Why? The inception of COVID, people are scared. They want less to touch. They're more inclined to go into a vacant house versus an occupied house. Know your stats. If it's a high-end house, I'll most likely stage it. Ishmael, what's your question? Can you give us the 4 types of sellers? What do you mean by 4 types of sellers?
Yeah, when you were saying like about started with the high D and then just tell about all the 3.
Oh. And actually it's 4 types of people, right? And this is what we call the Tony Robbins DISC profile. And it's called DISC, D-I-S-C. So it's important to understand who you're working with.
D-I-S-T.
S-C. So D is for a driven person, somebody who is business oriented, in and out of appointments, on to the next one, driven, right? Their day is set by their schedule, and they're not going to go a minute over their schedule. If you're scheduled from 2 to 2:30, you better be out of there by 2:30. I is for influencer. That's somebody who likes to teach and educate. S is basically steady. So the last thing, an S is going to be steady. They're not going to be a D, because the D is going to be driven to do the things that are going to create the money, that are going to bring in the money. The S is going to be steady. They're going to make sure everything is all dialed in. Your paperwork's good. You've got your listing presentation. You've got everything before you can go to that listing presentation, but they're not going to pick up the phone and call anybody either to get that appointment until all of that other stuff is dialed in. A C is cautious. So if you have somebody in your personality as an S and a C, I know the last thing you're going to do is pick up the phone and call somebody. It helps me know who I'm dealing with. Is the most fearful thing in your business picking up the phone and calling somebody?
Thank you.
Absolutely. So when we go to win the seller, it's setting it up, right? We have to be able to critique and say the good, the bad, and the ugly. Is there loose wiring, right? What's the electrical system look like? What's the furnace? What's the age of the furnace? If they're updated in good shape, then you know you've got somebody who's maintained their house impeccably, you can probably charge more. So this gives me the idea of my price point. If you've got somebody that's saying, I want top dollar and I haven't done anything to it in 20 years, what's the realistic point that we're not going to get top dollar? And then we're going to have conversation after conversation. Okay. And you need to understand, all of this portrays into the price point that you're going to set. And can you look at your seller and say, yeah, as much as I can appreciate that you want 550, that feels more like a house that's completely, redone, updated and whatnot. But when I'm looking at your house, you've got a 20-year-old roof on, hasn't been cleaned. It's got moss. You want to have those difficult conversations, but find a way to have those conversations. So as much as we want 550, now is there room in the budget that we can put a new roof on? Is there room in the budget that we might be able to get the furnace serviced? Those are all things I'm putting on them, not on you to market their property. It's their job to put the property in the condition to get the amount of money that you're listing it for. We win the seller when we can have these conversations. Dress for success. If you show up in jeans and a t-shirt, are they going to take you seriously? My mentor once told me you can always dress down for the appointment. But if you show up, right, there's an old adage, suit up, dress for success, become business professional, and then dress down based on how it goes. I've won listing appointments just by having, a suit on. If you show up in shorts and a dress shirt, then you better know that person pretty well. It's your business. You get to dress how you want to. And if you want to work with people who are going to accept that, then that's okay. It's your business. But it limits what you're looking at. It limits your opportunities. And then that 4.4 appointments is going to have to be 7 appointments because your conversion rate's not going to go up. Okay. So when the seller is, hey, we have to sell our house to buy another one. How do you navigate your way through that? Great. We want to, most people are like, hey, let's start looking at houses then. When in reality, the appropriate answer is let's put your house on the market. We have to put you in the best position to buy. And that starts with putting your house on the market and getting an offer. If we get an offer in, then it changes the perception as we're writing offers. It becomes on the sale of your property, not getting an offer, not looking for an offer, not having to go pending. So navigating your way through that. And that's the thing. In a 3-hour class, there's absolutely no way you could cover every contingency that could come up. That's why it's important to hit trainings and webinars, engage in the web, and in Keller Williams. We have a lot of experience here, especially because we now have 4 market centers that we can all engage and help. Give us more experiences. It's the level of these experiences that help us drive our business, right? What are you going to do to set yourself apart? how do you market the property? Now I go live on Thursday. I have an open house on Friday. I would door knock the neighborhood, invite people to the open house. That's your chance to get sellers. You're inviting them to come see what the neighbors have done. Saturday, Sunday, open house time. And then hopefully you review offers on Monday night or Tuesday morning. We want to expose it, and that becomes part of your marketing plan. Right? Let me pull this up. But how many people, and this I built over time because I loved doing open houses, right? This is what I did for my open houses. Can you see the picture? Does that stand out?
Yes.
Does that let your neighbors know you're having an open house? There's an agent inside? Okay. This one basically had people taking pictures of it in the neighborhood and saying, look at my neighbors doing. Right?
How many signs do you usually use?
As many as I can.
Okay. People say like do like 30 to 60 or something, like from the
no, I
next
mean,
season.
I'll do A boards. I'll do flags in front of the house. I'll do flags at the directionals. I will do any chance there's an opportunity for somebody to come in from a main road, I'm going to put a sign up.
Okay.
The more signs, I want people to find it because of their signs as well. Okay. So put as many as you can. The problem is they're expensive.
Yeah.
Anytime somebody leaves the business, I shoot and let me see here. I collect.
Oh wow.
Right.
You have lots.
Yeah, but I also supplied for new agents too. So if they want to come in and use them, I will always let them use them.
Those are the one that has your name on it, or is that just the open house, the Keller William?
Some of them are blank. Some
Oh,
of them
okay.
are blank. Some of them have my name on them.
Okay.
I have a certain allotment that I use for mine, and then I've got blank ones for new agents if they want them. I know getting into real estate is expensive. So having an option that you can come down and just, say, hey, I'm having an open house. Can I borrow, 4 signs? Just return them by Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good to know.
What's that?
I say good to know you have them.
Well, I don't want anybody. I mean, that was the hardest thing for me, was finding signs. It was like, I'll still remember I had to go get them made, special, ordered and whatnot. It was about a $600-700 bill.
Wow.
But I built these up in this process over time. Okay. This one, I actually got the listing. I competed with 3 agents. I actually got the listing. You see that?
Yeah.
That's a food truck.
Oh. So you had a food truck the whole day or a couple hours?
A couple hours. I did it for the amount of the open house, but I reached out to a food truck who used to be in that neighborhood. They used to have a building in the neighborhood. And when I was presenting to the attorney, it was a probate sale. I said, maybe we bring a food truck in. And they're like, what's that going to do? And I said, well, I know the restaurant that was very popular right around the corner in that neighborhood just moved to the east side, and they just launched a food truck. And I said, I'm going to make some phone calls, see if I can't get them there for an open house. See, it's all about the numbers. How many people can you bring into your open house? How many people can you bring into the house to then? Now, this cost me $750.
Mhm.
Okay. And I would never start my business by doing this, but I had to pay for the food. I had to pay for the plates that people got, and no food went in the house. So it was simply people came up, they ordered, then the food truck sent them my way to the house where I collected the information, their information. They walked through the house. Once they walked through the house, then they could go back out and get their food. So no food entered the house. In 6 hours, we had 90 people
Wow.
come through. You guys want to know the kicker?
Yeah, what was it?
I had 3 people that were going to write an offer. Now, this was a total fixer, right? 3,600 square feet. And it looked like a 1970s museum. We put it on the market at 565. We wound up, no, we put it on the market at 550. We wound up getting one offer. We had 3 people that were going to write, 2 were contingent. The one that wrote saw 30 people come through an open house in an hour, and they were there the entire time, and they knew we were busy. So they wrote for 20 over. Sorry, that was 20 over. And that was the only offer we received. So don't be that agent, right? That agent just lost their clients $20,000. They could have come in at list price and been the only one there. See how that works? Just because it's busy in an open house, don't assume they've got offers. Talk to the listing agent, build the rapport with the listing agent. Okay. So when this was all said and done, now here was the kicker. When that was all said and done, we'd agreed on $750. The reason you do this, it's all about marketing. This guy, food truck, has this restaurant had 25,000 followers. He put on his page that he was going to be at my open house. And how many people showed up? Right. And that was in the middle of January. So that's a pretty big open house. That was a pretty big deal. Here's the other thing, reciprocal business. He got 3 catering gigs and a wedding gig. That 750 became 250 because he got so much business. Not only that, when you walk the neighborhood and tell them you're going to bring that business back into the neighborhood to come visit, even signs that were have no solicitation on their door. I was walking up and I said, I just didn't want to miss you. I didn't want you to miss the opportunity. We door knock every neighborhood. I don't want you to miss the opportunity to come back and get some of the, it was called it's the Mad Greek, right? All of these things come into play. Can you present these things, right? You don't know that there's a lot that goes into that. When you go in live, does the food truck, is the food truck available? What does that look like? Right? I had 5 lenders show up and tell me they want to partner with me because they kept seeing it online. And it's funny because we have an agent that lives in this area. And he's like, but you didn't become the agent of choice. You didn't hit that neighborhood. You didn't follow up with that neighborhood and become that agent. Well, no. I know there's 5 or 6 agents that live in that neighborhood. But you know what I did become? I became this attorney who has 200 attorneys at his office. I became his preferred real estate agent. Probates, estate sales, all of that has become a niche because of that. What's your reasoning? That one thing I did there led to 16 listings last year. Who wants 16 listings? Right? So what are we going to do in our marketing strategies? How do we present these? These are just options that we're presenting to our sellers. And the sellers get the choice. Some people don't want the big hubbub. Oh, so Jamie, did you want to go back into your question? I see you're back now.
It was just the 10, not 10. Yeah, the 10 days on market, how you applied that to the seller. That's all I was wondering. But you said it, knowing what the buyers are looking for is.
Yeah, if you want buyers to compete and you want top dollar, you've got 7 days or less to sell your house.
Okay.
Your market is 7 days. See, everybody, 97% of people have this. They all have a search criteria.
Right.
Once they have a search criteria, right, it pings to their phone. Boom, this just went live. Let's go see it. Everybody wants to see what's new.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So then you just tell them, you look, to get top dollar, you have 7 days, and that's all going to be determined by list price.
Okay.
Okay. Another way that I used to put it was, you know, you do not want me walking in with my buyers 10 days on the market and you haven't sold yet. Because that becomes an opportunity for my buyers to get it, one, cheaper. Now, ultimately, the seller gets to decide what he's going to sell it for.
Right.
But the market, what's the market telling you? Your house wasn't worth this. So we've got somebody who's going to, an agent that's going to write. And don't be afraid that if you think something's overpriced, even if it's on the first weekend, and I would tell you this, don't assume that everything's going to go for this, everything's going to get sold in the first weekend. You know, when you walk in a house, if it's overpriced. Look, list price is just to determine the activity.
Right.
Right? If this is overpriced and we think we can get it cheaper, we may need to, I mean, the chances are we're writing an offer to write an offer, but we're also sending a message to the seller, which is you're overpriced. Who determines that? One thing you never know is who determined the price. Was it the seller? Was it the agent? Which one? Okay, in order to win the seller, the things that we have to do is we have to be transparent. We have to come with a lot of knowledge, right? And that comes from working with buyers. That comes from all these different strategies that I've talked about here today. These will help you navigate your way through what is a seller's motivation, right? If somebody wants to list high, I'm not necessarily going to turn that away. But what I'm going to say is we're going to check in weekly, sometimes twice a week. I'm going to provide you with the feedback. We're going to find out why we don't have any offers yet and what we need to do. Right?
What do you say to sellers that, I mean, I've worked with an agent for years. So, I mean, what do you suggest saying to sellers that don't want to come down on their price? They want to stay where they are.
The longer it sits there, then it just becomes, how do you say this? It becomes more difficult. You just have transparent conversations with buyer's agents. You know, this wasn't my price.
Okay.
Ultimately, it's a combination. Is it the seller or the agent? If you agree to go at the higher price, then you know you have to set him up. You have to set up the seller to know what's coming. If he's not willing to do any price reductions after the first 3 weeks, and we know we've had 90 listings, or, you know, say we've had 10 people through, right? Say we set a price and we have an open house and 3 people go through. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I just wanted to inform you, we had an open house. We had 3 people through on a weekend. We have 16 days of inventory on the market. What's your interpretation? They don't know what 3 people coming through means.
Right.
Right. I would have loved to have seen that number at about 20 to 25 people and us reviewing offers right now. But at the price point that we're at, we probably need to think about coming down in price to bring activity. I want to eventually I want to get you to your goal, right? Which is your motivation. Where do they want to go? I want to be able to get you to your goal, but it doesn't look like we're going to hit it at that price. Always bring back their motivation. Make sense? It's very difficult conversations to have, right? I got a $40,000 price reduction right before the holidays. She was way out of whack. It was a Zestimate thing. How do you fight a Zestimate? Especially when their business model just lost $420 million in a quarter, right? How do you tell somebody, well, your estimates, and I will tell you this, I probably lost 10 to 15 properties because there was no way if I went to market that I was going to be able to hit what this estimate was. So I would sit there in my listing presentations and how many people are going to be noble, right? And say, why are you sitting here telling us about Zillow? What's in it for you? See, I'm building my business on referral and doing things the right way for my client. And if I know I can't hit 500,000, but you want 500,000, but your estimate's at 503, then I'm not doing you any favors. Okay. And so we need to understand that this is all about you. It's about the relationship that you have. I want you to hit your goal. So pick up the phone and call Zillow. See if they'll buy your house.
Do you, because I know so many people use that Zestimate thing. Do you throw that amount that they lost in the last year out to them as a way to fight their Zestimate thing? Quote or whatever?
If they're waiting? Absolutely. Well, absolutely. Because estimates used to be under, right?
Right.
Estimates used to control the under so people didn't list as much. And it used to be that if I had somebody, I'll take this example. I had somebody who, she talked to her contractor and she's like, my contractor says I should get 340 for this. Great. Now I want you to Google your address. Why am I going to do that? Well, I want to show you the tools, not just that real estate agents have, but every buyer has. I said, so let's Google your address and let's establish a price point. And she's like, okay. Well, I had already Googled it and I knew what it was going to come up with. The prices were between 318 and 324. Okay. Now, you in the mind of a buyer, if you list your house at 340 and 97% of people have a cell phone, how many people are going to get off their couch to come see your property? Would you get off your couch to come see your property? Whether it's right or wrong, it's just a tool that we have. And it's that every buyer has.
How much did you say that Zillow lost?
420 million. It's great. Their algorithms were so far off. And it's because they started buying properties. And the algorithm didn't catch up, right? So then I changed my conversation from, this is what every buyer can see, right? When it pings to your phone, it goes up. The first thing they do is they open it up, they look at the pictures, then they look at this estimate and says, oh, your estimate's at 318, but you're listing it for 324, or you're listing at 340. Are you getting off your couch? And the steadfast answer is no. Right? So let's find a price point that's going to drive the price up and work with the clients. I said, you have enough in amenities here that we can go at 325. We're going to hit everybody that's looking from 300 to 325 and from 325 to 350. Okay. And people, if we go back to auction strategy, people are more in depth to fight for something because somebody else wants it, right? Anybody ever been to an auction? 8 days, 7 nights, Cabo. Who wants to go? Who's going to give me $1,000? It's $1,000, $1,000. Anybody? Anybody? Nope. All right. All right. Who's going to give me 500? 500? Anybody going to start with me 500? 500? Nope. Who's going to give me 100? All right. We got somebody wanting to go to Cabo 8 days, 7 nights for $100, $200, $300, $400, $500. Sold $1,700. But what do you walk out of an auction saying? Look what I won. Look what I won. And I will tell you this, when you compete for a house, it's the same mentality. No matter how many people that I have gotten homes for, my record for getting somebody into a home was $112,000 under list price. Yes, it was tough. Yes, it was difficult. But it was also very rewarding. And to this day, that couple were still great friends and everything, but they questioned, did they still overpay for it? Right? But when you compete, you're like, oh yeah, I beat 4 people for this, or I beat 20 people for this, and they chose me and my agent. And it was great. Change their mindset. You're only going to get that in the first 7 days. Every day you're on the market is a week. Is that an unfair possibility? I mean, is that a fair possibility with technology? Look at your view counts. You can supply view counts through the RMLS for your listings. Jamie, you're familiar with transaction coordinating and what that looks like. The spike is real in the first 5 to 7 days. Now, if you walk into a listing appointment and say, we have 7 days to sell this at top dollar, do you think some sellers could freak out? What do you mean? 7 days. We're in the hottest market we've ever been in. 16, 18 days on the market. And what that means, if no other listings come on, everything will be gone in 16 to 18 days. Use that strategy to get your sellers to the price point that you want. You know when you walk in what that price point is. You guys want to know a true story? I work with my husband, or with my wife. And the only time I never got the price point that when I went into a listing presentation is when she came with me. It became 3-on-1. Oh, it's only $5,000. You can make that happen. It's not just a difference of $5,000, right? A difference of $380 to $375 is what? It's not just $5,000. It's how many eyes are going to be visible on it. So then you're looking at everybody looking from 375 to 400, but nobody from 350 to 375. I don't care if somebody at 350 offers me 350 and I get a 400 offer. I just want 2 offers. So I want to increase the number of eyes on the listing. You do that with your pricing. Does that make sense? Ishmael, I would tell you who sets the price, the agent or the seller. Ultimately, the seller gets to decide. You just try to give them as much information, as much knowledge as you can to be able to drive, to get the price that you want. Explain what happens. Look, we're here to interpret the market. I can't tell you what your house is going to sell for. The only way I'm going to tell somebody what their house is going to sell for is when. If I walk in and give them an offer. Other than that, we're just interpreting the market. You guys want to know where that started? I had a second job when I started real estate, and I sold my boss's house. And I told him I can get $310 for his house. I got him 309. He never let me live it down. Don't commit yourself. Thornton's over here going, I want to meet that boss. But at the same time, it was a learning lesson. Never commit to something unless you're willing to bring the offer to the table. And I think that's what we can take for it. Don't back yourself into a corner. We're here to interpret the market. We're here to find a list price, right? And then we have those conversations. When we have those conversations, can you be transparent and honest? Can you come, how do you change it from bashing their house to coming from help? Come from gratitude. We come from gratitude and we come from understanding what is the best way we can sell the house. Right? There's a whole lot to a listing presentation. Number one is knowing the seller, seeing them. Okay. I use technology in my listing presentation. And I've been at Keller Williams just over 3 years now. Okay. I got here 3 years ago. I was in the same position as you guys, brand new. Came over from a different company just handed me a contract and said, go find business. Where do you go find business? How do you go find business? What does that look like? Open houses is going to be your number one way. Most ready-made buyers. And it's the fun part about open houses is you get 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours of people that are coming in with the same passion that you have. And if you come from gratitude and you come from help, there's no better feeling in the world. And we want to repeat that feeling every day. What's in your heart? Okay. Started at Keller Williams, got here just like you, signed up for Ignite, passionate, ready to learn. My wife and I are ready to go, building our business. And we came from a different company, so we weren't like rookie, but there was a lot that I didn't know from a different company. And as I'm sitting there, just like you guys, I'm absorbing it all. I went 3 months, went through Ignite, went through Bold. And 2 months after I'm done with Ignite, they start the next one. I'm going through the second one. I get a call. It's a referral from somebody, from one of my friends. It was actually the food truck. Ironically, the food truck guy that I just showed you. We've been maintained and built a relationship. He calls and says, hey, my mother-in-law wants to sell. And I was like, okay. I said, love to meet with her, set up an appointment. Great. We have a conversation, set up an appointment. I show up, right? They were already trying to sell their house on Zillow. Their estimate was 540, 539. Their estimate was the wrong information, had it as a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, and it was a 5-bedroom, 2.5 bath. Okay. Public record makes a big, it makes a big deal. They had their house listed on Zillow as a for sale by owner at 579. And I went into the listing presentation seeing this because I check all of that first. I check and see if they've listed it on Zillow. I check and see what it's listed on Realtor, or I check and see what these evaluations say. Google the address. It will all pop up. Fundamentally, they were all between 525 and 540. They were trying to sell it at 575. So I had the conversation with them. I also found out that they were competing, that I was competing with 2 other agents. I know who one was because they wanted, their motivation was They wanted to stay in the same neighborhood as their grandkids, and they wanted to buy the one level as their grandkids. And that house, right, and looking it up and knowing that that was their motivation, I knew that that house had just dropped to a price where it was going to sell. And it was go time. Okay. And I'm in this listing presentation and I'm trying to talk them down in price because obviously I know the number they have in their head. They're trying to sell it on Zillow for $575. So I brought the basic fundamentals. I said, the first thing you need to do is go in and claim your house on Zillow. You need to change it from a 3-bedroom, 3-bath to a 5-bedroom, 2.5 bath. Let the algorithms catch up and see if we can get this estimate up to where you want it to be. And I talked to them about listing at 550. Knowing that we don't have much time to wait, if we list at 550, then everybody from 500 to 550 or 525 to 550 is going to look at it, but also from 550 to 600 and 550 to 575. So we're maximizing the numbers 4 times over, 4 times as many eyes are going to be on it by listing at 550, which is going to increase the activity, right? 10,000 is a whole lot different than 35,000. You may be able to find that in an amenity, right? So talk to them at 550. Great presentation, great, everything went great. They asked me how soon I can have their house on the market. Knowing their motivation, when I had a meeting with them, they had a sick grandkid. This is pre-COVID. A sick grandkid, house was a mess. They weren't really prepped for a meeting. And I said, well, we've got to get it ready. I can have photography. We can probably get it on within the next 48 hours. That's where I screwed up. I didn't match their motivation. Their motivation was in the next 24 hours. So then I had the unfortunate pleasure of getting a phone call when they made the decision. And they said, love what you had to say, but we chose to go a different way. It's the dreaded Keller Williams phone call, where they call and say, you know, have another agent, we're going to go live. But if you know anybody looking to buy our house, you know, we're going to go live this weekend. Then I had the privilege to see who got the listing. And picture 4 months after being here, we were, well, Chris Suarez, we all know who Chris is, right? He used to partner with Craig Rieger. And Craig Rieger taught 29 listings in 29 days. And guess who I went against? The almighty Craig Rieger. And didn't know it. Thank God I didn't know it, because I probably would have, you know, things would not have been good. I would have talked myself out of everything, right? But when I saw who got this listing, I was able to walk by his office and say, nice listing. And he goes, did you interview for it? And I said, I did. And he said, Wednesday at 2? And I said, yep. And he goes, sit down. I'm like, what did I do? And for his first question to me, and I want this because it's been the best thing that I've ever learned, is how are your TMOs? How are your TMOs in the area? How many people look at your TMOs? How many people know what TMOs are? They come to your email every Monday in their total market overviews. They go within the last 6 months. We put them in a format that's easy to read for you. And they come every Monday, sometimes Tuesday, but it just says total market overview. And it gives you 6 months of how many actives are on the market, how many have been pending, what's the pending ratio, how many have expired, what was the starting list price, what was the final list price, in every category you could possibly imagine in your area. And it breaks it down into the RMLS categories. Okay. So in this instance, I said they were spot on. I know 112 were on the market, 49 went pending, 44.9% pending ratio, 19 had been expired. There's only one reason that things expire. What is that? Price. 100%. Everything can be fixed with price. Okay. Went through it and he said, great. Now, talk to me about technology and how you bring technology in. He goes, that's the closest I've ever come to losing a listing. And it's because you had them so fundamentally freaked out because you showed them everything that buyers were seeing that they didn't think there was a way they could sell their house at the price they wanted. And I said, so how did and I started with this. I said, what did you tell them you could sell the house for? He said, I went with 560. And I said, okay. I said, I told him 550 because list price only determines the activity. Activity determines the sale price. At 550, we were going to hit more eyes on it in the first weekend than any time else. So people from 525 to 550, from 500 to 550, 550 to 575, and 550 to 600, we're going to see it. So it's about putting more eyes on it to increase the chances of a price, especially for a 5-bedroom house. It's like, okay. I said, I told him to correct the Zillow and the Zestimate. Maybe the algorithms would catch up, that we would get into a bidding war. And he said, perfect. He goes, you screwed up at one place. You'd have got the listing had you matched their motivation and told them 24 hours to get their house on the market. If I'd have said I could get it on in 24 hours, he wouldn't have got the listing. Straight from their mouth. And you know what Craig sat me down and said? This is brilliant. You're going to teach this. And I said, no, I'm not. I can't talk in front of people. I'm not going to get in front of a crowd. I'm not going to talk to people about this. This is just me, my secret, whatever. 2 weeks later, somebody called in sick to Ignite, win the seller, ironically. I walk in the door, I get ransacked by 4 people at the front asking me if I want to teach Ignite. I said, no, I don't. But I was so confident with my listing presentation and what that entails, that my business that was formerly 90-10, 90% buyers, 10% listings, is now 75% listings and 25% buyers. Because I figured out that it had nothing to do with me. It has to do with the sellers. It has to do with their motivation, where they want to go, their strategies. If they want to sell it at the top dollar, give it a shot. But make sure to let them know that you're going to give them market updates every week. And if they sit on the market for 6 months at the same price, fire them after a month. That's reasonable. If they're not going to work with you, then why should you work with them? Okay? Doesn't give a shot, it doesn't hurt. Does that make sense? I wanted to get that story in because that was, for me, that was the boom. Right? Now I have to learn, I have to keep and stay on top of technology. And what are the algorithms doing? And what is Zillow doing? And what is Zestimates? And what is it? Because like I said, I had to change for the last year and a half and say, you know what? If you want 500, you need to call Zillow and see if they'll buy your house. Fortunately, Zillow doesn't buy houses before 1950. And since this was a 1920 house, they didn't buy that house. And what I would tell you is this: do everything you can to make sure you're going to the market ready day one. You do not want to be doing work when there's showings. You want to put it live once it's done, once it's ready to go. People need to see the finished product. And you need to understand market ready day one. What does that include? Maybe some landscaper needs to come out and just trim some bushes back, add some bark dust. Maybe it's staging the house. Maybe it's adding a little bit of paint. Right? All of those things are just minuscule costs. If we go into the listing presentation and we set those things up and we walk through the house through the eyes of a buyer, okay, we're honest, we're transparent, and then we sit down and devise a strategy. We show them our CMA. At that point, we're going to go through our actives, our pendings, our solds, and we're going to establish a price based on what I saw through the walkthrough. You know, what condition do you think your house is in? You of course have a listing that's, you know, that's comparable, that's high end, it's been totally redone, right? Yours isn't completely redone, but it's not bad either. Your bones are good, it just needs some paint. Have those conversations to establish the price. Actives on the market are your competition. And that's when you establish your price, get the contract signed, and go to market. How many people are working on their pre-listing packets? There's a template in oh geez, it's not Command, it's they got Michael Lewis Suites, where you can find templates and make it your own. Insert your logo, insert your picture, and pull the basics. Talk about yourself, do your biography. And then set that up to be your listing packet. What does it look like? Don't wait for it to be perfect to have the phone calls though.
Where did you say that template is at?
I believe it's Michael Lewis Suites. You can actually go to
Is it on the
just
comment?
Google- what's that?
Is it on the comment?
Yeah, well, no, it's on go to Google and just Google Keller Williams pre-listing packets.
Oh.
Okay, and it should pop up with some templates. Google is your friend. And I haven't done it in a while. And I know we're changing things up with Command and all of that good stuff. So it's important to also stay up on technology, as I don't do it. Right? So understanding what we do is one, pre-listing packets, buyer's packets. What do those look like? How can we get in front of people? How many people learned a lot today? Anybody feel smarter than they were 3 hours ago, 2 hours ago?
Yes.
How many people want more of this? Okay. I'm going to
Lots of
give you
information.
I'm going to give you a tip. If you can make it happen, and I understand we're all busy and whatnot, scripts practice. I'm going to do a shameless plug. Scripts practice 8:20. The link is provided in the daily grind that we get, or you can write down this number because this is going to be my Zoom number. This is how you get into it, is just type this number. and you'll be able to get to it. Open Zoom, type in 526-049-8196.
526-049-8196.
8196. That's my personal meeting room, which is where we hold scripts every Tuesday through Friday from 8:20 to 9.
8:20 to 9.
And we role play, much like we did with the listing presentation, a little bit here and there, but we role play. We find objections. We never put you in an uncomfortable spot. And what it comes down to is we're here to help. We all started somewhere.
Is it?
Yep.
You said Tuesdays and Wednesdays?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays from 8:20 to 9.
Tuesday or Friday.
Just put it in your calendar. Every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, every Friday. Fridays are fun. We usually do free forum where sometimes we have experienced agents come on and talk about what they're seeing in the market. But this is more about objections and objection handlings and being able to get those. And for you to be clear that this isn't about you. How many of you people are fearful of getting a listing because somebody's going to ask how long you've been in the business?
But
You know what? I work at Keller Williams. I have 1,000 years of experience back in my office. But ultimately, this comes down to you, your motivation and your goals. We're going to make sure that we hit every single one of your goals. Right? And I'm going to give you the strategies that we can do that. Once you do that, you're comfortable with that, and your world's going to go on fire. 1 becomes 2, becomes 3, becomes 4, becomes 5, becomes 10, 20, 40, 80. It snowballs. And it starts with one thing. I have accountability issues. I hate them. So does everybody else. When I started, right? And I'm passionate, right? A little bit about me. I was the productivity coach at Keller Williams Sunset Corridor for the last year during COVID. Okay. I did exactly what Eric's doing. Everybody knows Eric, right? I stepped away from it because my business went up 67% at the same time I was teaching 23 agents. Sound overwhelming? It was. Okay. You're in great hands with Eric, Mara. They are unbelievable. Get involved. We can't help you be great until you get engaged. Once you're engaged, we can help you be great. The minute I walked out from signing my papers at Keller Williams, we have a guy here called, his name's Noah. And he's, I'd say, borderline class clown. But as soon as I walked out, I introduced myself and he said, "Nobody beats me to the punch." And I said, "Well, I just did." He says, "Great, welcome to the team. Let's meet every Monday, 8:30 in the morning. We're going to meet, we're going to brainstorm, and we're going to get you going." Mentored me, coached me, got me to where I am. And then it was just ignite, bold, getting engaged in everything that we have. We got family reunion coming up. How many people are going to go to that? Going to Orlando, or are you going to do it online?
do it online.
Okay, smart. Especially with COVID, you don't know how it's going to change. But at the same time, my most common comment was this: if you don't engage, I can't help you be great. There's a lot of agents that are passionate about helping others. That's why we're in this business, whether it's clients, whether it's whoever it is. Don't be afraid to ask questions, but get to the office. Get to the office, ask the questions. The agents that are still in production here, right? Whether it's at Eugene, Capital City, we're all still here. We didn't stop working through this. You want to be great? Starts with the effort. That starts at 8:20. So I know Thornton, you guys still, I mean, they come in every day, ready to go. It's not intimidating. I mean, sure, was it at first,
Not really, but I'm just like, because for me, everything, this is all new to me.
Yep.
So it's kind of, that fear of everything, of not knowing what's in front of you, or what to say or what to do, like that, the whole thing. So even talking about it is just having that fear. But I guess once you just, get your feet wet and then just kind of like just jump in there, I think it'll be fine. I mean, it's just not knowing it.
Are you amazed how many scenarios and objections that we have? They just keep coming up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you handle this situation? How do you handle this situation? And that's what we do.
Mm.
How do we handle that? If somebody's going to reduce their pay or reduce their commission, one, ask the questions. Those who ask the questions control the conversation. What I mean by that, you don't have to answer every question. How long have you been in the business? Why is that important to you? What are you looking for in your agent? Great, I completely understand where you're coming from. When's your time frame? When do you want to leave by? Always go back to their motivation. See, they still don't know how long I've been in the business. Right? Will you
Reflection.
Will you reduce your commission? Well, what's important to you about that? I want to save money. Okay. I completely where you're coming from. Do you have another agent that has said they'll reduce their commission? Well, yeah. There's always agents that will say that. Awesome. Did you have to browbeat them, or did they offer that in their listing presentation? Most of the time now, they offer it in their listing presentation. Great. This is an actual conversation I had with a client. I said, he was moving up from Vegas. And he said, I feel good because I got my listing agent, right? He's prepping me, he says, feel good. I got my listing agent selling my house. He's going to do it for 1%. And I said, that's awesome. I said, you must feel real good about that. He goes, I do. I said, that would make me nervous. I said, because I understand this is your number one investment. This is the safety. This is the protection for your family. This is your investment. I've seen a house put 3 kids through college. And you just put somebody who can't fight for his own bacon in charge of your number one investment. There's 4 points where as buyers, you can get out of the transaction or lower the price. Offer price is offer price. We have seller's disclosures, preliminary title report, inspection period, and appraisal period. All of those periods are built for buyers to either get a lower price or back away from the deal and retain their earnest money. And you just put somebody in charge of that who can't even fight for their own family's money. How do you feel now? You guys want to know what his answer was? Like I should fire him? It's all about perception. What's your perception? What's important to you? Do you want to net the most amount of money, or do you want to gross the most amount of money? What's most important? For them, they're always going to say they want to net the most amount of money, right? Great. If you pay me 1.5% more than you pay that agent, but I bring you 30% more, do the math. Okay. Any questions? I know I was all over the place. Win the Seller has a lot of, I didn't even open the textbook. So that tells you everything you need to know, right? One, get comfortable with these strategies. I hope the one thing that comes through is my passion for teaching new agents, and that I'm always here for you guys. I'm going to type in my cell phone number if you ever have a question, and I will make a promise to you guys. Okay. If you have a listing coming up and you're nervous and whatnot, call me up. I've had agents call me up and be like, I got a listing appointment. It's my first one. What do I do? 40 minutes later, she's like, okay, I can go do this. 24 hours later, I got my first listing. I have an agent, she wasn't even in my program, and I still gave her the tools. And those tools were what? Confidence. When you can talk about the strategies, right, and see the history and know how to interpret the market, then you're going to be golden. All of these things I will help you do. And if I can get you ready in 40 to 45 minutes, then I will. You'll be ready to go for your appointment. Doesn't matter what area you're in. If you're in Grants Pass, if you're in Medford, the only thing you need to know is your numbers. And I'll tell you what numbers to look for. Okay. My number's in the chat. Anybody
Thank you.
any questions? Who wants to go get a listing? No, I'm here to help. Okay. And that's, I truly mean that. That's, you know, I was once in your shoes. I know it's scary as hell. I know it's frightening to pick up a phone. So I'll give you one final story. Last year, I hired a coach. I had a mentor for the first 2 years that I was here, where he and I would wake up at 5:45 in the morning and we would run through scripts. Does that sound fun? That's passion. We learned from each other. Now I picked a guy who had 30 years experience. And he picked me because I had technology and experience that he didn't have. And anyway, I decided to hire a coach last year. And my coach is big on pain versus pleasure. And I'm a big proponent as well. And her thing is this: how many contacts are you going to commit to a day? So I started with 12. I had to do 12 contacts every day. And it has to include the question in some form: who do you know that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Are you looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Something along that nature. If I don't get that question in, that doesn't count as a contact. Pain versus pleasure. What do I got to do if I don't achieve it? How am I going to have to look at my wife and say, you know what? I just committed to making 12 contacts a day. I'm up to 20 contacts a day now. If I don't make those 20 contacts a day, then I'm going to send her team, my coach's team, $100 each. So they're really rooting for failure. It's only $100, but that's still a nice meal, whatever, right? 6 months ago, that was $900. In the middle of a pandemic, she's now at 15. I wish I would have known that before I committed, right? Don't be afraid of accountability. even if it's a new agent, even if it's another new agent. Maybe you hit a training that the other person couldn't go to that you want to help, right? Going to make ourselves better together. Work together. It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. Okay. Everybody go have a great day. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. And if you, as always, you've got my number. If you have any questions, I know it's a little bit all over the place, but there's a lot to cover in this one. I want you to flip every seller to a buyer. Fundamentally, if you take the emotion out of it for a seller, they became what?
Buyer.
A buyer. And then they have to use the same tools that you're talking to them about in your listing presentation, right? Every seller is eventually a buyer. All right, everybody go have a great day. Enjoy. I appreciate everybody taking their time to be here. As always, you have my phone number. If you need anything, please do not hesitate to call. All right.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you,
Thank
Matt.
you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good luck,
Thank you.
everybody.
Be on scripts.
Thank you,
Be on
man.
script. You'll
Master
see
your crafts.
All right. Thanks.
me.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.